The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock has tips to protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report phishing, and update the software on your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, let LifeLock alert you to suspicious uses of your personal information. LifeLock also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. Stay smart, safe, and protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Hello and welcome to a special episode of Rolling Dice and Taking Names. And in this special episode, I'm joined by my wife, Vanessa.
Woohoo!
Thank you for coming on. Now,
I would not miss this.
we have a very special guest that we're going to introduce in just a second. But to kind of set up the whole thing.
Can't wait.
Over the years, you and I, when it comes, especially around Halloween time, we really enjoy playing games in the Arkham Horror universe.
Well, yes, but for me, it's not just Halloween because that's my favorite games. Yeah. So yes, and that because it's a real city, it's a real place.
Okay.
Real people.
So we've played board games and card games and dice games. Mm-hmm. And recently, you and I have started reading books from Aconite Books because they've started releasing a series of books of I counted, there's 28 books written in the Arkham Horror universe.
They are fantastic. It brings the investigators to life, gives you excitement. And one that we've read is The Bootlegger's Dance, which is one of my favorite books of all time. So keep going, Marty, because I'm getting very excited here. So Bootlegger's Dance, I think, should be made into a movie. It has everything you want. And I am so excited to introduce to you the author, Rosemary Jones. She is the author of Arkham Horror novels Mask of Silver, read it. The Deadly Grimoire, read it. The Bootlegger's Dance, read it, love it, live it. The Nightmare Quest of April May, read it. And The Arcane Gamble of Harvey Walters, cannot wait to read it. Rosemary is an ardent collector of illustrated books and a fan of live theater and silent movies. Her other works include Wrecker of Engines, Dungeons and Dragons, Forgotten Realms, novels City of the Dead, and Crypt of the Moaning Diamond. Numerous novellas, short stories, and collaborations. And you can find more information about Miss Rosemary Jones at rosemaryjones.com. I feel like I'm on the red carpet introducing someone. Listeners, here is Miss Rosemary Jones.
Oh, sweet. Thank you so much. That's an amazing introduction. I think I'll just sit here and glow for a few minutes.
Rosemary, I feel like a kindred spirit. I am a teacher, have loved reading all my life, and love illustrated children, picture books, all of it. I just love it. I feel a connection with you. Have always loved live theater. Once upon a time, I would have loved to have been in live theater. Maybe when we retire, Marty.
That's for you. I can't remember lines.
I really do feel like we have a lot in common.
Fabulous. Yeah, it's so much fun. People ask about the Arkham Horror books, and it's like, there's a lot of me in those books, and a lot of the books I collect are the books that the characters read, and I have a lot of fun tucking those in and doing stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm glad you appreciate it.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think it's because reading your books, you have such a way with words and imagery that I feel like I know, of course, all of the characters, but yet you at the same time. It's wonderful.
Now, I will say before we get started, this is happening. We're recording this in late October. And Rosemary sent me an email this morning saying, now I may be a little bit grumbly today because her favorite team, the Seattle Mariners, was one game shy of getting into the World Series. And I was pulling for them. I wanted a Milwaukee-Seattle World Series. And then I just wanted Seattle to get into it. So I am so sorry because I was pulling for them too.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, hearts were broken all across the city. I ran into one of my neighbors this morning. The sun is out. It's shining. It's a beautiful October day. He's like, I love the weather. I wish the Mariners had won last night. I'm like, yep, you, me, we're all in that. And he goes, well, next year. And
That's right.
That is what we're all in the next year. I do have to say a little baseball history. You have to understand. The reason we were all so excited is we are the only team, and we still hold the record of being the only MLB team who has never gone to the World Series. We have come very, very close. This is the closest. This one game away is the closest we have ever come.
Oh.
And, well, next year. Next year will be our year.
Next year.
Next year.
So, yeah, I grew up being a big Cincinnati Reds fan. And so in the late 80s, when Ken Griffey Jr. joined the Seattle Mariners, you know, his dad played for the Reds. And ever since then, I've always had an affinity for the Mariners. Then, you know, Alex Rodriguez started with them. Ichiro was with them and stuff. So from far away, I've always really enjoyed that team, especially on the AL side.
Yeah, we've had some legendary teams. I mean, I definitely grew up in the sort of the beginning of the team era. And then, the 95 is still burned in my brain, which was the closest we ever got with Ken Griffey Jr. taking the championship and getting us into the playoffs. An amazing young player. If to get to see him in his rookie years, I still remember that grin. You could see it all over the kingdom every time he made a hit, made an amazing play. And yeah, we had Alex, we had Jay Buhner, who I think is, he's an announcer. He's a wonderful guy. We've had so many legends. Ichiro just getting into the Hall of Fame this year was so exciting for everybody here in Seattle and all his fans in Japan. And I remember taking the bus down to the stadium and from my neighborhood, because it was kind of like a straight shot from my neighborhood down to the stadium on this one bus. And all these Japanese tourists would pile onto the bus when we passed through Pike Place Market, and they were all heading to the game. And they would look at you and they would go, Ichiro. And I would go, Ichiro. And we would all arrive at the game all excited to see him. He was an amazing player. And really started the international love. I mean, I say Shohei Ohtani and all the rest. It kind of comes from Ichiro coming over and playing for the Mariners. And
100%.
And just starting that huge interest and showing that, a player from Japan can do this thing. So
yeah,
lots
I
of
guess
fun.
people weren't expecting to hear a little baseball talk before we got started, but
Hey, we do it all.
It's
Once upon
okay.
a time, they never expected to hear about lawn care.
That's true. That's true. Well, and it all ties in because I did have a little fun, and you'll get it when you get the next book. Arcane Gamble is, of course, Professor Harvey Walters running around, but his good buddy Lefty, the garbage man, is helping Harvey out trying to save Arkham in this next book. And Lefty's an ex-baseball player, mostly so I could indulge in a little, throwing a little baseball trivia out at folks and having some fun, because the 1920s were kind of the height of what we kind of think of as kind of some of the legends of baseball. You have Babe Ruth was so famous in that era. The Chicago Black Sox scandal had happened in 1919 and still really shaded the game through the 20s. You had basically the banning of the spitball because a player got killed, and the only time a player ever got killed in baseball was about 1920. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the 20s that is baseball related, and so I had a lot of fun kind of sneaking some of that into the book.
I can't wait.
And it's possible it was because I am sitting there as I am editing and rolling through spring and summer on this book. I basically had the games on all the time because I was like, we're so close. We're going to do it this year.
That is not, in fact, this episode is going to release the day this book comes out, Arcane Gamble of Harvey Walters, which is one reason we wanted to schedule to have you on about this time to also kick off your book. But before we talk about the current book, I want to go back. So you've written a lot of books in the Arkham Horror universe. I'm just curious, how did you land this gig of working with Aconite Books, FFG, in order to start writing in this universe?
I actually applied to an open call. So, and it is almost exactly the same way I got to write for Forgotten Realms about 18 years ago, which is when I started. I wrote a couple of books for Dungeons and Dragons Forgotten Realms, applied to an open call, got in. I've never had an agent as a writer. I've always just kind of submitted my own stuff. And I'd left a marketing job. I've been running a marketing department for a college, an art college up here in Seattle. And I was sort of thinking, okay, what do I want to do next? What's going on in life? Where do I love to get back into writing? I'd been out of it for a couple of years. And a friend said, hey, Aconite's calling for people that want to write books based on games. And you've written novels based on Dungeons and Dragons. So I think you qualify. So I got up and got on their website, did the application. They had a little email thing. Did the famous thing that you always do when you want to succeed as a writer. I misspelled my email in the application form, and the editor had it bounce when she tried to reply to me. And, bless her heart, she found me on what was at that time called Twitter. And I still call Twitter. But she found me on Twitter. She DM'd me and said, hey, I got your letter, but it's bouncing, and this is the email you... And I was like, oh gosh, I'm one letter off on that email. This is what it really is. And so that was how that started. And they, like a lot of these type of books, they generally ask you to pitch an idea. So they ask you to give 5 or 6 ideas, no more than a paragraph. They don't want you to spend a lot of time on it because they're going to look at them and then tell you, where they want to go to develop. And in the Aconite, it was interesting. They had things like 5 Rings. They had a couple of other high fantasy, and I figured, okay, Dungeons and Dragons, they're going to want me in the high fantasy. So I did several high fantasy ideas, and then I was looking at the Arkham Horror, and I was like, 1920s. I've always liked silent movies, so I kind of slid one paragraph in that was film crew films in haunted house in Arkham. And that was when they came back and they said, we love it. The game company loves it. Can you develop up how this plot would work? And as I've always wanted to somehow mix magic with the early days of the silent movies, which were super crazy, if you ever read any histories of them, that worked out really well for me. So I sent them the 1-page plot that became essentially Mask of Silver. And that was, as they say, what started the ball rolling down the hill. And again, they have been very kind. And every time I finish a book, they're like, okay, what do you want to do next? And in Arkham Horror. And I'm like, I actually don't write horror, and I'm really, really squidgy about it. And I scare very easily. But, here's another idea. This is what Betsy could do, who we introduced in Mask of Silver. Now she can go off and have an adventure in Deadly Grimoire, and I can do that. And then, here's what we could do with Nova Malone, the bootlegger, and we can do bootleggers dances. So yeah, each one kind of developed like that. The first 3 books were very much, you like that, and people would give me feedback and say, I really like that character. Can you bring her back? And then I would kind of go on and do the next book. The current 2 that are coming out, the duology, having 2 books out in the same year I'm still sort of stunned by this, but because April May came out in March and Harvey came out in October, and I've been basically writing these books since early 2024. I think we started, we sort of agreed with it was always going to be a duology. We always agreed that there were going to be 2 books. They were going to take place essentially in the time period covered by the Drowned City expansion in Arkham, and I had a kind of I did several different outlines. We did several different back and forths because they were kind of developing the game as I was developing the outlines. And so I would say, I'm going to have this person appear. And they're like, yeah, no, he's going to be elsewhere. You can't do that. So there was a lot of that, but we finally settled on the ideas. And then we had, it was a very different writing experience for me. And it's a little different in tone, as you can tell when you read the books, because I go to a slightly different style. Because all of a sudden I've got a whole lot of stuff going on in Arkham that is because of the Drowned City expansion, and I kind of want to tour you through it, or at least give you little glimpses of it without revealing what's going to happen to you in the game when you play the game. So that was the interesting tap dance I was doing as I was writing these books, and I think you'll find if you've played the expansion, you will recognize which point in the game Harvey is in, and you will also realize the game isn't over when the book is over. You have to go on as a player and play something else, and that's I was sort of tap dancing between the pages, as I say. The game. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it was extremely fun to think, and I got to play with a lot of characters I really liked.
I'm going to ask a different sort of question. Your books, and you mentioned how there's a lot of history that you put in them. I think that's one thing that's great about your books within the world of Arkham is just to find out what was going on in the time period. What would some of the investigators be like? What would their life look like? How would they act? And that's very exciting. And you have just an excellent ability of using words to create imagery, to create art. Like so many scenes or passages in Quest of April May, like I could picture it as a painting.
Thanks.
So I was going to ask, since you collect children's books, is there a book that you remember that was kind of like an aha moment of, I'm not just reading words, I'm seeing imagery, I'm seeing something, I'm living something. It's not just reading.
Oh, well, that's been true all my life. So I am one of those kids who I started reading probably when I was around 4 or 5 years old. By the time I got to school in first grade, and they handed me at that time, the Dick and Jane and Spot the dog, and I was like, what is this stuff? It doesn't have a plot. I had no idea what was going on. I was like what why do I care about Dick and Jane? Like, where's their motivation? Because by that point I was reading The Wizard of Oz, which was probably the first big long book I remember reading on my own, and that was something that was kind of a family tradition. My grandfather, who had read the books as a little boy, and remembered them all his life. He could literally recite several of the different Oz books to you if you asked him. Would gift all of his mini grandchildren with a copy of The Wizard of Oz when they turned about 4 or 5. So I remember getting that for my birthday. I still have that particular copy, along with a whole lot of other Oz books. And that was always a very real story to me. I always felt the book was the real Oz. I have nothing against Judy Garland and the Judy Garland movie, but I remember as being a very small child seeing that on TV and going, well, that's not my Dorothy. Judy's a weeper. Judy weeps through that entire movie, and my Dorothy is not a weeper, because my Dorothy is the book Dorothy, and if you read the book, Dorothy is a very stalwart little girl who goes marching down the yellow brick road, rescues a bunch of people. Finally, she gets captured by the witch, and she's in the witch's castle. And she's not saving anybody with that bucket of water. She's mad at the witch because the witch is telling her to mop the floor, and she picks up the bucket of water and dumps it on her. And, it's just, and to me, that is, that's the pivotal difference between the book and the movie. She is not scared of the witch. She's angry at the witch, and she's going to dump that bucket of water on her just to, get the old lady out of her way. And, of course, she melts her, and then that rescues everybody, and onward we go. So, yeah, I think The Wizard of Oz has always been very, very influential. And then, of course, I just went from there to all the other fantasy. I mean, I've always loved the fantastic. So, I huge fan of the Narnia books. I remember reading those many, many times. I obviously Tolkien, The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings. I was reading by the time I was probably 10, 12 when I finally read it for myself. I remember my mother read me The Hobbit as a very small child, which was fine. And then she got into the Fellowship of the Ring, and she had to stop because the Mines of Mordor were too much for me. And I, to this day, when I hit that scene with doom. I get a little creeped out. So this is why I said I'm a bit of a wimp, but I get scared easily. The Minds and Murder is very scary though, with the Balrog. So yeah, so. But I did go back and dig out the book and read it then when I was a little older, and I adored those and all the rest. I mean, name a fantasy author, I probably like them. I'm a huge fan of Andre Norton. I grew up, in the late 70s, early 80s when there was just like every YA science fiction fantasy that was on the shelf in my local library was probably written by Andre Norton, or Ursula K. Le Guin. So, I felt like I got a lot of those writers sort of in me, and I've just not stopped reading. Still read all the time.
Is that the point when you decided you wanted to be a writer?
Yeah, I think it was always. I was slightly different. My mother is a writer. She wrote under the name Phoebe Matthews. She really started selling her stuff when I was in high school and college, so in the 80s. And she was, she had the agent in New York. She was writing for all the, primarily YA romance, but she did some adult romance too. And so I was always very aware of the business. I would go to writing conferences and stuff with her and tag along because my dad was not interested. Weekends were for golfing for him, so I would go to the writing conferences with my mom, and I would hear people talking about it. And I just keep thinking this is such a cool thing to do. So I graduated from college with a degree in journalism. I bounced around a lot of different writing and journalism gigs. Like April, May, I did sell advertising for a maritime magazine, a weekly maritime magazine.
Oh, wow.
And I am all about, I know everything that they're going to call you and complain about the next morning about how you ran their ad. That was a lot of fun to put a lot of that into April, May's job frustrations were very real. And the funny thing, it turned out my editor at Aconite, also one of her early jobs was selling advertising. So she and I were like doing notes on the manuscript about, oh yeah, I remember this kind of thing, where you get the price wrong and the person calls you up. You're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll rerun the ad for free. And there's a lot of that's kind of, so it's grounded in that. There's a lot of fantastical that comes out of the game, but it's always grounded in those experiences.
I do want to ask, kind of going back. So I'm going to be like kind of the nuts and bolts question asker, and Vanessa will be more of the, not emotional questions, but the personal questions. There you go. So when you started writing for the Arkham Horror books and you wanted to use a character that had already been established or a location or something, what kind of research material did they give you to draw on? Is there like a tome or an encyclopedia stuff that says, here's the background on Harvey Walters, stay within these confines or here's this location is going to be like this, don't move it to some other spot or something. So did you have places you go research and look things up on the background of existing characters?
I love this because everybody always asks this stuff, and they used to ask this about Dungeons and Dragons too, and it's like, oh, don't we wish that we had those things? But no, it's all sort of loosely out there. So what I do if I'm writing a book based on a game, and certainly what I was doing with Arkham Horror, was I will grab as many game-related materials as there are out there. So I will actually go out and buy the game. Luckily, I have a lot of gamer friends, and I play quite a bit. So several of them had like current versions of Arkham Horror on their shelves, and I was like, we have to play this because I have to write a book, and I got to figure out what the mechanics are and kind of what the feel is. And then I would... as we got into more stuff where we were making the investigators bigger, the interesting thing was the very first book, Mask of Silver, they were kind of rebooting. They'd done some fiction. I read some of that earlier, but they were sort of rebooting how they wanted the series to be handled. And there was a definite, we're not sure if we want you to use the investigators except as cameo characters, just like quickly passing through, and you just concentrate on your characters and your plot, because again, that stuff's all original to me, and it's a setting, so it's a little bit like writing. And of course, I'm researching the 1920s at that time period, and I'm also reading a lot of Chambers and Lovecraft as I'm writing the first book, because I got to kind of bring that feel back into it. And as I'm doing all that, there's a lot of back and forth with the company. They approve the outline for the book, basically, and then I go off and write the book, which is 85,000 words or so, and then it goes to the editor. She does a pass through it and says more emotion, because my editor's really good at that. And I put more emotion in, and then they send it off to the game company. The game company comes back with what we call green, yellow, and red comments. And green are, oh my gosh, we love this idea. We love how you describe this, and this is probably, like, we'll use it. We'll steal this for the game. Yellow is, I think this works in the game, but we have some questions. Can you adjust this or do something? And red is, no, you can't do that, because that contradicts something that we've either published or we are going to publish, which is always kind of the interesting thing, because they're, of course, on their own track of putting out expansions and stuff. So we have to kind of keep moving around all those. So it's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of collaboration back and forth with people. The second book, Deadly Grimoire, I was not going to have Winnie Habermock, who is an actual investigator, play as big of a role in the book. But when I sent in the outline, Betsy was going to basically meet her in the first chapter, and that would be it. Then she would be gone. And the only note I got back from the company was, we love the idea, but could you please make Winnie like Betsy's best friend and have the two of them solve the mystery together? And I was like, I get to have Winnie? Yeah, okay. It was like this aviatrix who's, has all these cool cards. So of course I immediately ordered the Winnie Habermock pack for me. So I've got all the cards, and I'm like, literally, I swear, before every chapter, I would like throw the cards out and go, oh, okay, I see her pistol in this. So I'm going to mention the pistol in this chapter. So I was trying to Easter egg a little bit for the fans, but the description of her character and her background, pretty much what you read on the card. So I get a paragraph and I get a picture, and then I got to make up all the stuff, and then I got to make up her backstory. So that is super fun.
We were wondering if you actually played the games.
Yeah, I have.
Prior to writing.
A little bit. I don't remember the card game. No, I was playing the board games prior to writing, and then now, of course, I play more. So, and things like that. And I have soloed my way through the Drowned City expansion and died miserably every time. So I'm still working on that one. I've got a couple of friends who want to play it with me. I have everything. I have the investigators. I've got the set. I've got everything. But so we're gonna maybe break it out to celebrate Harvey when Harvey comes out.
There have been some books I read where basically a character that's introduced in the book eventually comes out as an investigator.
That is always the goal, the dream. I haven't quite gotten there, but what's been really fun with Aconite, and maybe why I do those painterly descriptions, is they have an art director named Nick, who's an amazing guy, Nick Tyler, and he has been kind of art directing the supplementary stuff like Welcome to Arkham, which gives you a whole lot of history of the town. It's basically, and several other people worked on the prose, but Nick's really fun because I hear more from Nick than the writers on those projects. So Nick will like ping me and say, hey, I'm going to put the Diamond Dog in Welcome to Arkham, and this is what I think it looks like. And, he'll send me a picture, and I'm like, oh, absolutely, this is great. Or here's a poster for the Diamond Dog. And I'm like, oh, Nick, this is so cool. Because he like starts creating stuff off my words, and they're pictures, and they're pretty, and then I've got them. And I've got there was the Arkham Horror poster book where they took a lot of the art from the cards and the books and stuff, and they made them into posters. And, of course, he said, oh, we're going to make a poster out of Mask of Silver. We're going to do it as an actual movie poster. And I have it up on my wall. So it's very exciting. It's so much fun. Like, oh, look, I made up this thing. And now it is, like another thing. And yeah, that's the fun part of doing this is they do spin off it. And when they were doing the Film Fatale card drop for Gen Con this year, which is just a little 1920s Hollywood thing. Now, Betsy Baxter is not in that, who's my movie star, but they asked me if I would do a Betsy Baxter short story that would kind of introduce some of the elements of Film Fatale cards, and I said, of course. And I was writing that, and of course, the usual thing, I sent them 2 ideas. They said, well, actually, we like both. Should you do both short stories? So that was kind of nice because that let me go back to that character, wrap up a few things that I wanted to wrap up from the previous books. And those short stories are both in the omnibus edition that came out this year that has the first 3 books in it. And they're also available on the arkhamhorror.com website. So you can read them there. And they were very fun to do. But again, I didn't really know much about what was going on with Film Fatale because they were in the process of development. They sent me some notes. They said there's going to be this character and this is what he's kind of looking like and here's a picture. And if you could introduce him to Betsy, that would be great. And so that's what I did.
And I just want to say to the listeners now, if you haven't had a chance to read any of the books, please read them. They are just fantastic. But the next question that I wanted to ask you, because we both collect children's books and picture books, illustrated books, and it's a hard question, but do you have a favorite?
Oh, that is a terrible question. Because
it is.
I have,
or just tell us some of your
favorites.
favorites, and then I wanted to share my family's favorite.
Okay. Well, obviously the Oz series is huge for me.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are not aware, but the Wizard of Oz is kind of the first big universe. Like if we talk about the Marvel universe, the DC universe, the Wizard of Oz, the first book was published in 1900, and L. Frank Baum, who created the Wizard of Oz and wrote the first book, went on and wrote numerous sequels. He wrote 14. I'm going to go. I always sort of lose my numbers when I'm doing this. But he wrote up until his death in 1920. So there was basically a new Oz book out pretty much every Christmas. Occasionally, there's a few years where there's a skip, but so you have all of his books. And then those are so successful and so beautifully illustrated by a man named John R. Neal that the publisher, Riley and Lee, decided to continue them. They hired a woman named Ruth Plumley Thompson who went on and wrote a number of Oz books. And then a number of other authors followed her. So all in all, Riley and Lee issued 40 Oz books between 1900 and about 1940. So those are amazing pieces of art and text and whimsy and fantasy. And John O'Neill is one of my absolute favorite artists. And I have gone on and collected other things by him. He's an American artist. But I also like the other great artists of the Edwardian age. There was just developments in printing and in the possibilities of what you could do with printing that it became sort of a thing between about 1900 to into the 1920s of issuing very deluxe illustrated volumes of fairy tales. So you have a lot of the Dulac, Kay Nielsen, Milo Winters, one of my favorites, is probably a little lesser known, issuing these beautiful deluxe. You have the things like the Scribner Classics, where they bring out all these books that are were maybe originally published for children, but have kind of moved down into the children's library, like Swiss Family Robinson, which is, I just got a copy of that from the 1920s, illustrated by Milo Winter. And those things all come out. You have a guy named Howard Pyle who has the Brandywine School in New York of illustrators. And they're doing these fun things, and I'm a big Howard Pyle fan too. So again, you can sort of wind me up and say, Rosemary, talk about illustrated books, and I'll just keep going for the whole podcast. Yeah. So we'll stop there. But yes, I have a hard time saying what my favorite is, but probably the one that I remember the most and can spot like across the room if I see his work is John O'Neill, who was the major illustrator of the Oz series. He was not the only one, but he ended up illustrating most of the 40 books, and his stuff is gorgeous and Art Nouveau and fantastical.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look that up because I didn't realize there were 40 books. And as a child, I never read Wizard of Oz.
Oh, they are strange things. Well, yeah, I just did a thing at a science fiction convention. You either had a family who had them or you didn't. And it was very funny. I just did a talk at Flights of Foundry or three of us who were big Oz fans and slightly different ages, but we all fell into them. And yeah, we all had all the Bond books. We had all the Thompson books. The later ones, I will say, they got a little tired as the series went on, but there was always, always some sort of imaginative thing about them. So they're a lot of fun.
That is a lot of fun. Ours, I guess, would be more, I don't know. I didn't have Oz books growing up. So the books I had were like the weekly reader books that came every month. My mom made sure she had those coming. The book that clicked for me was called We Were Tired of Living in a House.
Oh, I love that title. I don't know that one. That's a great title.
I did bring it. I'll show you.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
listeners. Yeah, I was going to say this is a podcast.
Of living in a house. It's a very simple children's book, but it is the words and the imagery. It was Liesel Moick Scorpion, but it's about a little family, and the kids decided they were tired of living in a house and the rules, and they tried a tree, the beach, a cave, and for whatever reason, each one doesn't work, and they end up going back home.
Oh, that's fantastic! Yeah, no, that's what I love about kids' books. It's like
69.
So it was from 1969.
Yeah, no, that would be I didn't get that one, but yeah, that sounds fabulous.
It was fabulous for me. So I always read growing up, and of course we read to our boys. So one of the books that they loved that connected with them, I guess you would call it a picture book, but they use, is it called a diorama when you use actual, so each page is an alliteration with the alphabet and then a diorama of all the little figures.
What's it called?
Ellsworth's Extraordinary Electric Ears.
Oh,
and
my
so
goodness.
there's each letter of the alphabet with just a fantastical picture and fantastical words. And so anyway, really
this is why I am living with 2,000 plus books in my very small apartment. And I really, okay, now I've got a couple more to look for because, hey, 2002, 2003, 2004. What does it matter? Yeah, you can have
We have a local bookstore, a used bookstore, and you can trade in your books for credit. I can never trade in a book. I cannot get rid of a book. And sometimes they'll have books out there for $0.25. I have to get them. We have to get the books.
I have a lot of rescue books that way. They're like the little puppies that, nobody's taking them home, so I've got to take them home from the library sale.
Yes.
Yes, I love those things too. So that funny thing about those, there are elements of the Gothic, as in the Gothic romantic suspense in my books. I think those are probably closer than straight horror, and the Gothic is kind of undergoing a renaissance right now. There's a whole bunch of people writing those, but again, we were talking about, we all love those 1970s paperbacks that had the girl on the cover who was running away from the dark and spooky castle, usually holding a candle over her head. And I got all of them. I mean, I still have dozens of them, but I got all of them at a junk shop that was close to, it was the town over from the town I lived in. Whenever my mom went over to that town to do grocery shopping or whatever, she would drop me off at the junk shop because she knew I wanted to go through the paperbacks. The deal was you got, I'm remembering 5 for $1. It's like some deal like that. And you could bring them back and then get credit, and then you could get even more. And so, I mean, this would be all summer long. I would be trolling through this box there would be some science fiction, some fantasy. This is how I picked up a lot of the early Ace paperbacks, which, nowadays when I go and look at them, I realize this was 1920s pulp fiction, but then Ace republished them in the 60s and 70s with Frank Frazetta covers and Roy Krenkel covers and all these wonderful things. And so I would pick up those, and then I would pick up my Gothics with the girl running away from things. And so I still have stacks of those paperbacks. Some of them are in rather poor condition because they were probably dragged to the beach and dragged outside and dragged everywhere with my little 12-year-old self. And but I could never
Did you
bear to
read
get
in
rid of them.
restaurants waiting for your food to come?
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I was one of those kids. My mother would occasionally throw me out the door and just say, "Go, take a walk, take the dog for a walk." So I'd grab a paperback and I'd take the dog for a walk, and the dog would run around. I'd sit and read. So that was my summer.
So I was going to say, listeners, I hope that we're exciting listeners to read and to pick up some of these books. And I wanted to say again, the books that you've written you've written for Dungeons and Dragons, Forgotten Realms, and that's City of the Dead and Crypt of the Moaning Diamond.
Yeah,
that's what you wrote for Dungeons and Dragons.
Right. Those are both set in Forgotten Realms. Crypt of the Moaning Diamond is Dungeons and Dragons V4, I would say version 4, was when I started writing for them, which I have realized it's been 18 years since that book came out. And the reason I know that is I had a young woman walk up to me at Worldcon in August and said, Crypt of the Moaning Diamond was my absolute favorite book. I loved the rust monster scene. I kept reading it and reading it. I was 12 years old. I just had to keep reading it. And I'm like going, wow. And then I'm like, wait a minute, you're 30. Wait a minute, when did that book come out? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting so old. But that was so exciting. And that was actually always kind of fun. I started writing for them, and like I said, I just did a couple of books, and then my editor, Susan Morris, moved on to other things, and like, as often happens with writers, when your editor leaves a publisher, that's kind of the end of the contracts. I did a couple of short things for him, but I didn't do any more novels. But it was very funny. Those two books, I would have so many guys, because at that point, even in 2008, 2009, women were playing, but generally as somebody's girlfriend, right? And so I had so many guys walk up to me at con and say, I really like your books, but my girlfriend loves them. And now she doesn't think I'm weird for reading Dungeons and Dragons novels because I've given her your books. And I'm like, good. This is my job. I have made you look good because you've given your girlfriend a book. And nowadays maybe the same guys. I had these lovely men walk up to me and go, I started pulling out my old D&D books because my kids are playing now. They're 12, 15. And I give my daughters your books because I love how you had these women and you had them running around and doing all this day-to-day stuff. And I'm like, good. I have done my job. You're giving your daughters books. This is good. So that's who I write for. I write for people who really love the games. And hopefully I write a book that they feel good about giving to their friend, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, their kid. I mean, because I do occasionally get people say like, well, their horror, is it all right? And I said, yeah, really, I write it PG-13. Your 12-year-old's going to be fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing in my books that the 12-year-old won't like. Because I write them for 12-year-old me.
Yeah. They're for all ages.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to mention again the ones set in the Arkham universe is Mask of Silver. So good about the silent films, and they're mysterious and they're excellent. Mask of Silver.
Hey, will you play the film, the latest Arkham Horror card? I mean, Film Fatale?
So when you meant, so our thing, Rosemary, is I love the board games, but I don't play the Arkham card games.
Which is what I love.
So when you had mentioned that earlier, I said to myself, Marty is going to try to get me to play the Arkham card game. After talking to Rosemary, yes.
Oh,
see, you're bringing us together too, Rosemary.
Well, and I think Film Fatale is a pretty quick scenario, though.
it is. It's a standalone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a standalone. It's quick. You'll be fine with it.
So,
yeah.
okay,
and they're cool
listeners.
cards. Like when you see the cards, they're really cool.
Yeah.
Listeners, you need to go get Mask of Silver, The Deadly Grimoire, The Bootlegger's Dance.
Pause on this one because this is a Christmas-themed book, and we're heading into the Christmas season. And never would I have thought. Now, if for anybody who's never played or done anything in the Arkham Horror universe, nothing ever goes well. Things always go bad. And Bootlegger's Dance was such a joy to read on that last page. It was a happy ending.
Don't
Well, no, I'm just saying it really fit the season. It's a Christmas season that happens in Arkham. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on, but it gives you all the feels of the season.
It truly, truly does.
I had so much fun with that one. And I will say I did get very early on when I pitched it, I wanted to be a Christmas book. I don't know why I decided that was a good idea, but I often get these ideas and 6 months later I'm writing to my editor going, why did I think this was a good idea? It's Arkham. Why is there Christmas story in Arkham? But that one, I particularly, for some reason, that idea just really, I knew where that was going to go. And I wrote her, and the only kind of editorial feedback I got off the idea was, as long as you don't put Cthulhu in a paper hat, because my editor is in England. She goes, as long as you don't put Cthulhu in a paper hat, we're good. And so I said, no, it'll still be spooky. There'll still be weird stuff going on. But, it's going to give me a chance to bring back Nova Malone, which the fans really wanted. And
yes.
So
I
wanted to bring back Nova.
Yeah. So that one should trump all Hallmark movies. Like that should be the Christmas movie. Because it does. There is mystery, there is spooky, there is a romance, there is the music, there's dancing, there's
Yeah, that was so much fun.
There's everything.
There's also more investigators in that book than any other book.
Yes.
I have been told that there's a guy who has a great website. He goes under the name Arkham Historian online, and he's very, very good. He keeps his own wiki, basically, of everything that's going on in all the different books. And he wrote to me, he said, Rosemary, I think you just set a record for the number of investigators in a book. And I went, yeah, I think I did. But I had so much fun because I just kind of pull everybody in. That we just see them very briefly, what they're doing on Christmas Eve. You'll find out why we only see them on Christmas Eve. Yeah. But that was so much fun. I started writing those scenes and I thought, each time he's going to encounter an investigator. And so then I could show you a little bit of what was happening either in the investigator's past, present, or future. Because this is also, because not enough that I should set this at Christmas in Kingsport, but I gotta make this a time travel novel as well. So I am trying to track both. I have one character who's moving literally through time, and I have another character who's just experiencing the month of December in Kingsport. And the charts on that one were just kind of amazing.
It was well done because with you had the calendars in the back that I kept referencing to see what was going on when. So.
Yeah, that was mine. I actually made that up, and then I sent it to Nick. I said, Nick, I don't know, maybe you can put this in the book because this is so crazy. Because I was literally going, okay, wait, what day is? Okay, this is what day this is going to be happening. So yeah, I was very exact on that. Probably as exact as I'll ever get because it was driving me nuts.
I read Mask of Silver, then Bootlegger's Dance, then Deadly Grimoire, and do read them in order. I mean, you don't have to, but in order is a very beautiful sequence and continuation of the story and characters.
Yeah, they're kind of we're now sort of basically calling them a loose trilogy. I call them the Fitzmore Reese legacy. So it all stems from Sidney Fitzmore Reese's absolutely wonderful idea to film in a haunted house in Arkham, and sort of his family background. And those three books are interconnected characters. You have characters repeating in them, and you maybe see a different side of a character depending on when you encounter them.
So since you said that one is a good one for Christmas, so Mask of Silver is perfect for October.
Oh yeah,
so I could read that one in October, the next one in November, and then Bootlegger's Dance in December. There you go, listeners, you must do that. But then Nightmare Quest of April, May, must read because I am on the edge of my seat waiting for the Arcane Gamble of Harvey Walters. So those are the books by Rosemary Jones, and listeners, you need to go get them. Yeah, and I just cannot wait, Rosemary.
Yeah, and that is
thank you so much.
That is basically, like you said, that's taking place. The latest expansion is the Drowned City expansion. So they have these books kind of intertwined in that. And this is basically the Arcane Gamble of Harvey Walters is a follow-up. Now, Harvey Walters is one of my all-time favorite characters.
He is mine too.
He is just so good. And he appears in every game, which makes me realize, have you ever met the original designer of the Arkham Horror board game, Richard Launius?
No, I have not. No, I have not. But I do love the art. I love the stuff that people mentioned about Harvey, and he came in. He's in the first book in Nightmare Quest of April May. He sort of serves as a consulting professor, occult consultant to our characters. And every time I wrote a chapter from Harvey's point of view, I fell in love more and more with Harvey. And so, yeah, I was like, yeah, the next book is going to be Harvey's tour de force, and it is. It was very fun. It's a little different for me, but I had a really good time with it.
Yeah, I asked about Richard because he lives about an hour and a half from us.
Oh,
and several years
fantastic.
ago, he came to our house with a bunch of other people and ran an Arkham Horror game. And so as he's running the game, he's telling us how he created these characters. So like Jenny Barnes, he created several of the other original people that he did. And he said some of them are based off family members. There was a gang that was based off some historical family he had in Chicago and stuff like that. So it was really interesting hearing him tell these stories and lay the groundwork of what became a second edition, a third edition, a card game, a dice game, and now the books that are being put out, basically stemming from this guy that back in the 80s said, I'm going to make a game in the Lovecraftian universe. And it all sprung from that.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting because I think there's a lot of my family that I tuck into the books too, because the 1920s are 100 years ago at this point. We're in the 2020s. But it's also really close. And that was one of the things I really realized as I started researching and working on particularly Mask of Silver. And then, I've continued to do a lot of research as I've gone on with the other books, is how in many ways it's a very similar time period. And one of the things I had a lot of interest in doing, as I was first starting out on the Arkham Horrors, I was talking to a friend and he said, what I love about Lovecraft is that it's science and horror. It's not fantasy and horror, but he's pulling off kind of the scientific stuff that's happening that day. He's reacting to it, maybe not too positively because he's H.P. Lovecraft, but things like polar exploration and stuff, which were huge at that time. It was in all the newspapers. You've got birds flying over the pole and stuff like that. And I started thinking about that, and so that was kind of my in creating the first three books. Was each book kind of deals with a technology that sort of blossoms in the 20s. It maybe isn't invented in the 20s, but it is really starting to take hold and will change pretty much how we entertain ourselves with the movies. The movies really start in the 1910s. You've got silent movie theaters starting to go across America, but in the 20s they're huge. They are the mass entertainment. The second book, Deadly Grimoire, is dealing with aviation. Again, everything I'm saying about aviation it was again huge. It was a huge form of entertainment. In the 1920s, commercial flights were starting. You have the post offices now doing airmail. In the 20s, I was drawing off a lot of that. And then the third book deals with radio, which is really starting to get going. And radio is really wacky. If you read early radio stations and stuff, they were very homegrown. Each town had their own station. A lot of times they were just in a guy's garage, living room, whatever, wherever they could stick the equipment and broadcast. And so it's kind of interesting. And I think it's very paralleling what we see with the internet, what happened in the early aughts, 2000s with the internet, how people started creating things and communicating. And now it's such a huge part of our lives to be online and be able to do this conversation with you right now, which we wouldn't have been able to do 30 years ago. So we were doing all that. And I'm like, oh, it's kind of the same thing. We have a lot of change and a lot of technologies coming out and changing how people are regarding the world. That's opening up the world for them. And it's also kind of scary because it's making things different. And so, you can play up all those themes with the Arkham Horror books, which is really fun. And then you can write the world's longest explanations at the end of the book, which I do, which is the acknowledgement section, which is really me going, hey, this is real history, and this is where I found it, and this is where you can go look for it. So I always enjoy tucking those in at the end of the books.
Well, Rosemary, where can we go and find you on social media and in person?
Oh, well, generally you can find me online under my name, which is Rosemary Jones. So if you go to rosemaryjones.com, that's got everything in it. So you'll see all my various social media on there, and that's usually the best place to start. I'm still on the Twitter, aka X, under Rosemary Jones. I'm on Blue Sky under Rosemary Jones. I am on Instagram, but I'm under Lost Loves Books, which always makes it look really weird when they're like tagging me in Aconite because they're like, Lost Loves Books wrote this book. And it's like, well, no, Lost Loves Books is my book collecting. And that was my Instagram started years ago to show off the books I collect. Those beautiful illustrators, John O'Neill and stuff. Okay. You can go, if you want to follow along with what I'm acquiring in my little dragon hoard, you can find it there.
And then what about in person? Do you have any other...
You have book signings or anything going on?
I'm going to be at the online convention. For sure, I'm going to be at the Science Fiction Writers Association is doing an online convention in November called Quasar, and I will be talking about collaboration and writing novels based on games. For that one, it's $50 if you want to go to Science Fiction Writers Association's website, sfwa.org, and you can sign up for Quasar. There's a lot of other good stuff if you're interested in becoming a writer or writing and want to know more about fantasy and science fiction writing overall. I highly recommend it. And I will be at NorwestCon next Easter. That's my only convention for 2026. I know for sure. So those are my things.
Okay, and so on October 28th of 2025, the book Arcane Gamble of Harvey Walters is going to be released. And I don't know if you can say, but do you have some stuff in the hopper that we can look forward to in the next 1 to 2 years?
I don't have anything I can say right now. I have a few things I'm working on, and I don't have any. It's kind of weird. I have had 2 years of pushing all this stuff, and I had a lot of stuff that came out in this last couple of months, and so yeah, there will be things out in 2026. We will announce when appropriate. Follow along at rosemaryjones.com, and you can find things.
Awesome. Well, Rosemary, it has been a pleasure talking with you.
Wait, I'm so sorry, Marty. I do have something, and the editor's going to send me a note. There is one new short piece that will be out at arkhamhorror.com around Halloween.
Oh,
that is a different piece. It's not the two stories that we put out for the omnibus. So it is a new piece that will be coming out right around Halloween is the plan. So
nice. I know that Fantasy Flight, that's their big Arkham week where they do like several streams and stuff like that. So we'll look forward to arkhamhorror.com.
arkhamhorror.com, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming out that week on that site, and that is a really fun site if you haven't gone to it and you like the games, you like the fiction, because all the writers to the fiction are contributing different kind of short stories and little color bits and stuff, and it's super fun, super good writing. And I also recommend, if you like the Drowned City expansion, look up Carrie Harris's book, which was essentially the prequel to the Drowned City expansion, The Dangerous Visions of Lucius Galloway. So,
which I read.
Oh, I did. I will
read
read that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Carrie, I love what Carrie did with Lucius. So yeah, that was to introduce that character, and she's a writer I admire.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We've been geeking out about this, knowing he's going to get to talk to you, having just finished the book, and it is such a pleasure. We've enjoyed your work. I hope people who are listening will go out and check out your work. And we'll keep an eye out for any of your future works. And again, y'all, there's those list of books. We've said them several times. You can go find those at rosemaryjones.com. You can also go to aconitebooks.com. Everything is there. You can buy physical versions. You can buy e-read book. What is it called?
E-books.
We know what I was about the physical versions. E-books. Yeah, I couldn't think of it. So, Rosemary, again, thank you so much. And next year will be your year for the Mariners.
Oh, yeah. Next year. It's going to be our year. I know it is.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you. It's lovely meeting you both.
Thank you. So nice to meet you.
Hello, it's Ian. from Respect the Crit, an inclusive tabletop RPG actual play podcast about exploring new worlds.
Our camera pans down on the world of Ord Mantell.
New characters.
Carolus would like to make a counter offer.
Chinese 2 Scoops Charizard.
If that's your voice, I'm gonna be so excited.
Yeah. And playing whatever we want to play. Sabak!
What a great game.
From Dungeons and Dragons.
Can you roll another d20?
12.
You, for the next 72 hours, are 12 years old.
Oh no!
To the post-apocalypse.
He's a vault dweller, you could probably tell with the jumpsuit and everything like that. Hey, lads, you gotta tell me where your vault is?
It's not gonna happen.
We've got stories in all kinds of settings, including video games.
This is gonna be a Sephiroth-free experience.
Horror.
Crawling out of the mirror, a nightmarish amalgamation of twisted limbs and jagged teeth, its visage a grotesque mockery of humanity.
Oh my god!
And a galaxy far, far away.
This is fun, let's do it again! And then he'll punch it and we'll go into light speed.
The dice tell a story, and we have a hell of a lot of fun rolling with it.
No way.
No.
Are you
joking
me?
Oh my god. This is so... Yes.
Whatever the system, miss or a hit, you always gotta respect the crit. Join us bi-weekly every other Wednesday for characters, campaigns, and new episodes, anywhere podcasts exist.